Hey, this is JD Frost. Thank you for listening to the Daily Ledger podcast. I have an incredible guest today that I'm so excited about. He is my super coach. He's one of my mentors over the last 2 years, I think. And Coach Michael Burt, the super coach. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I like the concept of the Daily Ledger.
Yes.
I think success is something that happens through an accumulation of actions.
Right.
Daily, consistent actions. And that's what makes the most successful. Even mundane actions is what makes the most successful people successful.
The mundane actions, I think, is what makes you the most successful. Don't you? Wouldn't you say?
Well, I tell people, yeah. Success it isn't sexy. And I know people, push back on that. But the daily chopping wood and carrying water is what makes a person great over long cycles of time. As you know, I've studied mastery, laws of human nature, and Robert Greene actually wrote the book Mastery because he was fed up with people who couldn't fix anything, couldn't do anything, couldn't solve a problem. And he said, we've lost our way of going long. Obedience is in the same direction. We're amateurs. This is how you master something, which is typically, as we know, 10,000 hours of dedicated practice with a coach and correction.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, even during this time, I mean, let's just kind of talk about the COVID-19 a little bit, coronavirus with what's been going on. I mean, I know this has like completely affected your business. I would imagine, Coach. I mean, with getting groups of people together, you usually are speaking in front of so many people and motivating those people. What has this been like for you as far as being able to continue those, what we're calling mundane tasks? I mean, what have you had to do to pivot in your business over these last 6 to 8 weeks?
Well, the interesting thing has been for a coach like me, there's two types of people. There's people that when the economy goes bad, get scared, contract, will not spend a dollar, right? It's business people saying if it's non-essential, we're not going to spend any money on it. Then there's the person who says, no, this is the time we need coaching. This is the time we need to sharpen our saw. This is the time we need to get better. It's actually been harder for me to sell cheaper things, JD, than more expensive things. So we've been working on, for some people, it's allowed me to get the attention of the key decision makers because they've slowed down. They've had a chance to stop. It allows me to articulate my value. We're working on several big deals right now. And it was really just a matter of, now I've got their attention, and I didn't have their attention when they were really busy. So it's all in how you look at everything. I mean, I'm a big believer. I mean, I was signing big contracts during the recession of 08 because some people that were losing money said, man, what's it matter if we lose another $100,000 if this guy can help us? Right. If this guy can help us turn it around, why not? So it's really in my daily attack. I don't change anything during this period. If anything, I increase my action. I increase my activity. I increase the sales cycle. I increase my engagement. I increase my social media. So it's interesting that I get to associate with really, really big time people. And when I watch what they do during cycles of contraction, and very few of them just put their head in the sand and give it and shut down. These are low level people that do that.
Right. And I mean, how do you prevent yourself from doing that? I mean, you're a big action person. I mean, you always have so much energy. I mean, that's one thing I admire about you, and that you are always looking for that next thing, but you do stick to that system that I see. I mean, how do you keep moving at those levels? I mean, you almost seem like a machine, right? Like, I think I've kind of kidded around with you before, like, and other people have too. Like, you're the super coach. Like, you're just a machine at it, just sticking to it and just over and over and over again. How do you do that?
Well, in some cases, I think I'm going to use a word called conditioning, because during this cycle, you've got young kids and kids that are growing into, kind of adolescence. I've got a 7-year-old and about to have another boy. And it's very important how a person is conditioned early in life, because they say that most condition happens before a person's 7 years old. And if they've not been conditioned poorly, if they've seen their parents quit, if they've been in environments where when it gets tough, people flee, then that is deeply environmentally and psychologically hardwired into a person. So fast forward 30 years, when they're 36 years old and they work for JD Frost and Company and it gets tough, they don't have the conditioning to keep fighting through and show up every day. So what do? They revert back to their old way of thinking, which is to give up, quit, contract. Now we're trying to rewire people that are 36 years old that have had years and years of conditioning, and it just don't work, man. I can just tell you, I don't care how good the coach is. So I was conditioned by a very tough mother, you know, single mom, got up every day. I watched her work 2 and 3 jobs. She wouldn't let me make excuses. She wouldn't let me whine. She taught me not to listen to my feelings, you know, and you know, maybe that was her just survival mechanism back in those days. But I'm so thankful because she conditioned me to get up and go get it every day. And so now I've flipped the script. I'm 43. I'm very interested in what I eat, my diet. I treat myself like an athlete. I go to the #1 energy doctor in the world. You know, I'm on the eating plan. I exercise. I treat myself like I'm a pro, JD. And because of that, you know, I want to operate at the highest frequencies I can. And I know when I don't sleep right, when I don't eat right, when I treat my body poorly, when I don't get the proper rest, that I don't perform well. And people are paying me to help them perform. And so I have to be, you know, that machine that just shows up every day, because I'm the power source. In my structure, you know, I'm the power source for thousands of people every day.
Right.
And they're looking to me, you know, and that doesn't mean I don't have bad days.
It's like a personal responsibility that you take on yourself because of what you do. That's why we see this machine that's just running, right? I mean, I like how you're saying that it's a part of like how you condition yourself. It's a part of like that's your profession, and you're treating it that way. Yeah. Do you ever get into a rut, Coach? Like
absolutely.
What's a rut look like to you?
All right, here's a great example. When we had to cancel the Shout event at the Lodge with Sharon Lecter and Tim Story, this was right.
I was so pumped about that event.
I know, trust me.
Gosh,
that was right before COVID happened. I mean, it was right in the middle. It was right when, and listen, I was hell bent on having this event. I went out to the Lodge. I took the whole team out there. We set everything up. I personally called every person that had bought a ticket to see if they were coming. All of them said they were coming. And then that night, you know, we kind of got word that they were worried about Tim getting from California to Nashville and being stuck here for a couple of weeks. He was getting word that they were shutting down airports. And man, I hit a wall that night. I went to Nashville. My wife was down in Florida at our house in Florida. And so it was just me. I went down to our condo in Nashville. And for 3 days, I really just holed up, mad, frustrated, angry. I called my president, Chelsea. I said, I mean, I went through this cycle of I'm done. You know, I don't want to do this. I'm, you know, I can't keep going at this pace. I mean, I would really just hit a roadblock. And those 3 days, you know, the first night I was ready to just give everything up. Right?
I appreciate you being open and honest about that. I mean, that's because there's an element, I think, to you and maybe some listeners, some viewers, you know, see all these people and are like, do they ever get to this feeling? You know, do they ever get to that point? And I really appreciate you being open and honest. So anyway, sorry, I interrupted you. So you were like, I'm done.
Yeah. So I think that Thursday night, you know, I was down there by myself. The next morning I called my president of my company. I'm like, I'm done. I'm done doing this. I'm done the way we're doing it. I'm done. I don't need a greatness factory. I don't need, like, you know, I'm over it.
Like
I'm
anything.
Yeah. What I said is I'm unhappy.
Right.
I'm unhappy.
Yeah.
And here's, so for the people watching it, they got to understand for the last 2 or 3 years, my career has been booked, you know, 285 days out of 365 days. I'm talking weeks with no break. I'm talking on planes and airports. And when you're
talking about booked, you are booked from like 4:30 in the morning till 12 o'clock at night, and you're doing something literally every minute.
Yeah, and that just all of that, and then the letdown of the shout. We worked hard to sell tickets. We pushed. I mean, it was just a breaking point, man. It was just one of those days that I had a breaking point. And so by Saturday, I was feeling a little bit better. By Sunday, I was feeling a little bit better, and then I did decide to restructure the business as a result of that. And what I mean by that is we've just looked at how do we restructure the whole thing? How do we do it a different way? How do we, what do I really want to do? I mean, I'm 43 years old. I'm asking what do I want to do every day? What am I happy doing every day? What is profitable?
I think it's important to ask yourself those questions for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
because,
like, what do I really want to, what do I get the most energy out of, and where do I make the biggest impact, right?
Yeah. And I want to do something legendary. I don't want to do small things. I don't want to go to work and just go through the motions and check the box, man. Life is too short for me to do that. So I'm around all these legendary people that do big things, and I want to do big things, and so I'm frustrated, and I live in that frustrated state. I'm grateful and frustrated at the same time. I wake up every morning grateful because the life I have, the business I'm in has afforded me a life I would have never imagined that I would have.
Yeah.
The properties, the jet, the lifestyle, there's a high cost to that, but it is a force. So I wake up every morning just grateful, but then I'm frustrated. I'm like, man, I want to do bigger things. What is that next big thing for me? And I was looking back, JD, this would be good exercise for you, all your listeners. I just went back and asked myself, what are the legendary things I've done in my career? And I'm talking legendary, like remarkable. People would remark about it. Right. Well, winning a championship at a place that had never won a championship, it took me 10 years. That was remarkable. That was legendary. Speaking at 10X to 10,000 people. I
was gonna say that's probably got to be up there in your top legendary things that you've done.
Absolutely. But then it becomes, okay, well, what have I done lately that's legendary? Like I got a coaching program and it's going good, and I got people, and I got this, and we're having a coaching summit coming up, and all that's good. But a guy like me needs something big. I want to be involved in something big, right? And so I'm constantly asking myself, what is that? Like what is the next big thing that I can get involved in? So there's a healthy amount of frustration in me that pushes.
Because you want that legendary activity.
Yeah, and watching the Bulls thing, Last Dance.
Oh man,
I don't know how you can. I don't know how you can do that and not want to do something legendary.
Right.
Like, I don't know how a person can watch that and it doesn't tap into the spirit of a person, of like what they did was remarkable. How they fought through, how Jordan found his prey drive and found another gear and kept finding it was remarkable. And that's kind of where I am in my life. I want to do something bigger. And so I'm kind of in a period where I'm looking for what is that next big thing. I know what makes money for us. I know what I enjoy doing. I think I'm just looking for that. Is it something I create? Is it something I build? Is it something I'm a part of? Is it something I start? I really think that's how people of interest think, is they're looking for that next big thing.
Well, and that, I mean, I really appreciate the way that you're kind of framing that, because like when you were saying, when you had to cancel the shout out event, I mean, you were like, I'm unhappy, I'm done, I'm frustrated. Probably like just wanted to completely check out. And then when you question yourself about what you really want, I mean, how do you find these legendary things that you're looking for? I mean, legendary to you is going to be a lot different than legendary to me, I would think. We think fairly commonly, but how does somebody find that legendary activity? I mean, how would you go about that?
Well, I think here's would be, as you said, that there's an instinct in us, and that instinct is an instinct to be known in the world. It's an instinct to matter. It's an instinct to contribute. I go down to Nashville and, got this condo down in Nashville, and I was with this big time guy one night, and we had dinner, and he just kept pointing at these buildings. Look at that Batman building. He said that building right there started with one person. One person had a thought and created that, right? Like I have a condo at the 505, which is the tallest building in Nashville. Mm-hmm. Tony Giratani built that. Well, he also built the Encore. He also built the Viridian. He also built, the Cumberland. He was the first guy to put high-rise living in downtown Nashville. Like, that's legendary. Like you're the guy that made the tallest building in Nashville, right? Like,
right.
So, his point to me was, look at all these things. Look at all these big things. They all started with one dude, one idea, one concept. And that's kind of how I think about it. I think people of interest create something that solves a big problem for people in the world. But it's not, when you study mastery, and I've been going back studying this, and you'll appreciate this. I reached out to Robert Greene to see if I could work with him. Robert Greene wrote Mastery, 48 Laws of Power, Laws of Human Nature. And he does years of research. He's an incredible author. He's hired by presidents, influential people from around the world, people in Hollywood. And I reached out to him and said, what does it look like to work with you one-to-one? Like if I wanted you to coach me. That was question number one. Mm-hmm. Question number two was, would you be open to doing an event with me? And question number three is, do you have like boot camps where people can spend intimate time with you, just learning your philosophy? And his assistant got back to me and said, yes, he does one-to-one coaching. What's the offer? He didn't say, here's how much it costs. Then he said, yes, he would do an event with you. What's the offer? Like, you're a person of interest when you say, look, I do these things. Now you tell me how much you're willing to pay to spend time with me. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world.
And I'll say yes or no. Right.
Yeah, because that is person of interest, man. That is when you get there.
Hey, Coach, though, what'd you offer him?
I haven't decided yet. I haven't
Come
decided.
on. What are you thinking?
And I would almost be embarrassed to even put a number out there because there's no telling what people are willing to pay to spend time with this dude.
Yeah.
But my point is, he spends 5 years. Most people write a book in a year or two. They do very little research. They pump a book out, and I'm writing this book on Prey Drive, and I'm using, Hank and Steve and these guys, and I'm working through this book to get a national book deal. Mm-hmm. And I just told the woman yesterday who was working on my proposal, I'm like, man, I want this book to matter. Like, I don't want to just pump it out because this is what I say. Like, I want it to be incredible because that's that Robert Greene spending 5 years working on one masterpiece, working on one book, working on one concept. And so I think people have got to step back and ask themselves, what is the next big play for them? And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's you create something. Maybe it's that instinct in you to take action on something that you've been sitting on. Maybe it's the dream. I spent $100,000 a few years ago to just draw up the plans for the Greatness Factory. Just the plans. And I haven't built it. I got hesitant to build it in my city because I thought maybe it needed to be in Nashville or a bigger city, but it's just a big project. You got to raise capital. You got to find the land. You got to go through the process. Like it's not easy. So it's always, well, is it the right time to do that? And that, but at the end of the day, what if I build one Greatness Factory and there turns out we franchise them or we license those and I'm on a plane or somewhere at some point in the future and says, man, who's that dude? Well, that's the dude that created the Greatness Factory. And there's thousands of them around the country. Like when I put that picture of the Greatness Factory up, when I spoke at 10X, we had all kinds of calls the next week from all over the world. Right. I want one. I want one in Miami. Oh, I want one in DC. Oh, I want one in Baltimore. Oh, I want one in California. Like if I would have had the plan ready, we may have been able to franchise that to 50 people just from speaking at 10X. Right. So I think that's what you'll see me move toward is these bigger plays, these bigger projects. It just takes guts.
Well, and I think, even talking about that concept for a second, I'm going to kind of go a different direction. But I mean, I think that one thing that we all struggle with as business owners is being able to multiply ourselves. And you have a lot of people that, want to work directly with you because of your energy and what you bring to the table. And, how have you changed? You said you kind of totally revamped the business. How have you changed your business at this point in time to be able to, fulfill that need? Or is that need still there? That demand still there? I know in my own business, I've kind of come to this place, where, and it's kind of weird, but typically the CPAs, you have a personal relationship with your CPA. I've kind of come to this place in my business where not that I don't want to not have a personal relationship, but I want to be more of an educator for accounting. I want to be more of an educator of the people that are on our team and help them grow. And what has happened in my own business is it's like fulfilling that desire causes me to kind of disappoint a few people sometimes because I'm not able to be there directly for them on their actual account. I've got to rely on a team member to be able to to do that. So like that's been a big change in our business over the last, 6 months or so. But so how have you been able to make that change in your business to meet that demand of people that are wanting to be directly with you, or is that still even a part of your plan?
Well, I think the question to me comes back to what do I enjoy doing, right? Like I don't do a lot of one-to-one coaching except for the higher paying clients. I have learned during this period though, I used to think, JD, that coaching was always a lot of prep. It's a big event. It's a lot of hype. There's a lot of energy expounded. What I have come to realize during this period, because it's been like this, via Zoom, is that sometimes it's just giving a person a new way of looking at an old problem.
Yep.
Sometimes it's just taking your 28 years of experiences and saying, have you thought about this? Would you be open to this? Would you think about this? Coaching, I always thought the reason it was so heavy on me was because I got to hype up. I got to get energy. I got to go in there and perform. It's a performance. And if I do it 6 times a day, man, you're exhausted. Well, I've come to realize that now I'm coaching the same people, but I'm doing it via Zoom. I'm doing it from my office in Tennessee. I'm not leaving. Okay. I've been home at 5:30 at night to see my family, which has been totally different. I'm not on airplanes traveling. I'm not in hotels. It's really, I told my wife last night when I was home at 5:42, I'm like, man, this is crazy. Like I've never done this. Like, I don't even know what to do. I'm like, what do you do? And she's like, well, you just relax.
You relax.
And you spend time with your family, and you just go swimming, and you go for a walk. Like you do what normal people do.
Sit out on that back patio you got and look at the water, right?
So what I figured out when I said restructure my business is let's take an example of my coaching summit. This is a great example. There's 200 million Americans in the United States that say they want to write a book. That's 81% of Americans say they have a book in them. Well, I've written 16 books. I'm about to come out with my 17th book on this Pray Drive book. I know how to do this. I can do this in my sleep.
Right.
All right. Now, the question then becomes, I also love coaching people that want to coach. Like if you came to me, like what I'm hearing you, like you enjoy being an educator. Mm-hmm. You enjoy coaching people on finances, accounting, right? Like that's your real sweet spot.
Yeah, like following a specific system or a specific strategy in taxes. Like this is exactly how you need to do this. Yeah.
Yeah. Which could be getting you in front of large numbers of people, and instead of taking one-to-one meetings, JD gets up and speaks and coaches, and he's in front of 1,000 people, and 160 of those sign up for his accounting services while he's there. Mm-hmm. Like that's still prospecting.
Right.
That's still prospecting. Okay. And so I enjoy coaching people in how to coach, how to build a coaching business, how to speak, how to get on stage, how to write the book, how to do that. So we have this coaching summit that I'm doing in July, and I do 2 of these. Okay. We charge $5,000 a person, which is nothing compared to the amount of money many of them go make from that. And, we get 50 people typically there, and that's $250,000 of revenue for me to coach for 2.5 days at my own lodge in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, what I figured out during this period is, man, I love doing that. I love coaching other people in what I've learned the last 18 years on how to coach and how to speak and how to coach and how to train. Because maybe they have an idea. Like you got this concept of the daily ledger, but at that coaching summit, I'd show you how to take the daily ledger, turn it into a book, a talk, an online program, a license and play. I would show you how to make millions of dollars with this one concept of the daily ledger, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's what I know how to do, because that's what I've been doing. Well, here's how I thought about it recently. Instead of doing it one time for $250,000 or 2 times for $250,000, I should be doing 6 of those a year. Instead of trying to get 50 people, I should spend all my marketing to get 100 people. I should make $500,000 in those 2.5 days, and I should make $3 million a year in 18 days at my lodge. Now we're talking. This time period has forced me to think like that.
Right. Yeah. Like, I think it's forcing a lot of business owners.
Like highly profitable. I enjoy it. It's at a place I love coaching. It's a hot topic. We can sell. It's one of the easier products we ever sell because so many people want to be a coach.
Right.
And they want to monetize. So that's the kind of question I'm asking myself.
And you have a proven concept in your own success story, right? In your own experience.
And we started a publishing division during this period. So we've got a writer that writes the book. So many of our monster producers, instead of them going through this laborious process of writing the book and collecting the information, we have a guy on our team now that is writing the books for people. He takes your videos or your talks. You know, I mean, I would even, you know, he could take any of your stuff and he does all the work for you. And it's a 5,000, I think it's 7,500 bucks. And he takes it, and within 30 to 60 days, you got a book.
That's amazing.
So we have had so many monster producers take that, who said, I've always wanted to write a book, but I don't know where to start or how to go. I've got this content. It's all out here. And they're like, man, for 7,500 bucks, I'll let him write the book.
Yeah.
Because it's time. It's saving you time.
Right. Right.
Saving you energy. And so then you got a book. Well, now you got a message. Once you got a message, you can speak. Once you speak, you get in front of people. Once you get in front of people, you say your coaching programs. You know, so that's the kind of model that I'm trying to do. So the publishing has been a huge additional revenue source for us.
Well, and like one concept that we were talking about when we were putting this webinar together is discussing the difference between fishing for blue marlins and blue gills. I wanted to talk about that a little bit. You know, but based off of what you're, you know, I've heard you discuss it. I think I understand the general concept, but in times like these, you know, how are you going to find those blue marlins? I mean, it seems like that there's more of an opportunity to provide a lot of value to more of the masses at this time, and then be able to, you know, appeal to what they're looking for. Like you're talking about publishing a book or writing a book. I mean, people have more time on their hands right now. I think that most entrepreneurs, if they were thinking about it, this would be the time to be doing it for sure. I mean, if you just dedicated just an hour or so a week, you could probably pump one out, especially if they're using your system. So how do you, what's the concept there? What should we be focused on right now between those two different options?
The interesting thing is we don't always know where the blue marlins are going to come from. This is why we have to work the system. Okay. And let me give an example. I put out during this cycle, during this cycle that I was doing complimentary webinars. If you had a team and you had a decent sized company, to help you during this period, I would do a free complimentary webinar. And I was doing them on confidence, selling systems, follow-up, mindset. Well, a person that saw me speak in 10X several years ago reached out to me. And he said, I noticed where you're doing this. You know, we have a $100 million company. We have salespeople in all over the world, but our offices are in Miami, London, Singapore, and we'd love for you to do one. So I met the guy at 10X a few years ago, but I also met thousands of people at 10X.
Right.
And so here's the deal. I get on the phone with him. I have one conversation. He says, we're a $100 million company. We bring in big time people like you to keep our people motivated. And I got in there and did a great job in my time with him. And then I went back and said, man, then I said, I think I need to be your coach. And he's like, I agree. Out of all the people we brought in, you're the only coach of the group.
Wow.
Like he was bringing in Belfour speaking today. He brought in Grover. He brought in Bradley. He's brought in Cardone. He's brought in all these big time people.
Golly, who hasn't he brought in?
And, you know, but he said, out of everybody, you have a real methodology.
Right.
You have a true selling system. You know, you have a follow-up. You have an extraction of referrals. He's like, you are a true coach. And that's what's appealing to us. So I think we'll start off with just coaching him and maybe his main guy in Miami. But I didn't know when I put that out there that it was going to be a blue marlin that would take the bait on that. Mm-hmm. Okay, my point to you is, yes, it is true that you could come in, and a blue marlin, for all the people listening, a blue marlin is based on a premise that money changes hands when problems are solved. So you could either solve big problems for bigger money, or you could solve small problems for smaller money. We call the small problems blue gills. We call the big problems blue marlins. So you could build your business on low numbers of people you work with high profit margins, right? And if anybody understands this, you understand because you're an accountant.
Yep.
Like I could say, look, I'm working with 10 JD Frost. It's $100,000 a person. Right. And I could get 10 people to do that. And if I said, look, I'm cutting out everything I do, you'll get all my time, all my attention, all my energy, and I'm only working with 10 people, and I could make $1 million that way. Okay. Or I could sell my book to 1 million people at $1 a book.
Right. Yep.
Okay. So you got to make up your mind. So this concept is when you wake up in the morning, are you solving big enough problems that people would pay you bigger money? B, or are you solving a problem for large numbers of people? Okay. And you got to make up your mind. Or are you solving it for teams of people? Like me, the big money for me is in corporate agreements. It's not me signing up one monster producer. It's me signing up a whole company. And the company, as a $20, $30 million company, says, man, we'll pay this guy a couple $100,000 to help us make $10 million more.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, one thing from my own personal experience is, you know, those high ticket items, those the 10 people that were paying you $100,000, that almost becomes more exhausting to me than the solving the maybe that same problem, but across a larger group of people. And I don't know if you've ever experienced that yourself in your own career. Just like when you have people that are paying you that much money, there's a very high expectation there. And I think, you know, one thing that if I've learned anything over the last 18 months is managing the expectations on the front end of what is exactly going to happen with this. Because when you sign up those high dollar, I mean, you got to be careful with that, right? I mean, have you experienced that before? And what's your advice on that?
Well, it's interesting when I sign up high dollar people. Like I have people, I look at Paul Tudor Jones. Paul Tudor Jones paid Tony Robbins $1 million a year for the last 20 or 30 years. And they asked Paul Tudor Jones, what did he get for $1 million? And he said, I just wanted to know that Tony would answer the phone when I called him.
Yeah.
And they said, how many times did you call him? And I said, you know, 2 or 3 times. Right. But just having a connection to Tony Robbins helped me make $20 million more a year.
Right. I mean, those 2 or 3 conversations probably yielded that 20 million. Easily.
Exactly.
Right.
So I have members at 25K and above that say, man, I just need to talk to you a couple of times. Some of them say, I don't even need to talk to you, which is interesting. They say, look, I'll pay 25K to watch your stuff, be involved with you, come to some of your events. Coach, I just want to be associated with you. Then I have some people, you know, that pay $49 that want to move in with me.
So you got a little bit opposite problem what I had a little bit. Yeah, I got it. But it's a matter of setting up those expectations.
A lot of my time and energy, and I get that.
Right.
I get $49 is still a payment. I completely understand. But you know, if I wanted to call a big time person today and get personal time like Robert Greene, I can't go to Robert Greene and say, man, I'd like to pay, you know, $49 a month and get personal time with you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like that. He's worked his whole life to have these experiences. Right. You can't, you know, so when you think about it, you know, it's like Jordan. What would it have been worth for them to pay Jordan to come back for a 7th championship? What would have been worth to the city of Chicago? What would have been worth to the franchise? Like, it's really stupid that the owner would let the general manager make that assessment about maybe one of the greatest coaches of all time in Phil Jackson.
Right.
Because the monetary damage, the pure monetary damage they did to their organization was, in my opinion, I don't know all the economics of it, because what he was saying was the cost to retain all these people would have been ridiculous. I would still have to guess that they would produce more money. Now, here's an example.
Yeah, it would have to.
When they hired Nick Saban at the University of Alabama, you know, some Alabama people had a fit because he was the highest paid employee in the state of Alabama. Okay, they paid him $8 million a year. He has a $32 million contract. Well, in the very first year he was there, they brought in $95 million.
Right.
They paid for all 8 years. Excuse me, it's $4 million a year for 8 years. They paid for all 8 years of his contract in the first year he was there. That was a good investment.
Right.
So people just need to understand, you know, I think people need to understand the difference between what something costs and what it's worth, you know, and there's a big difference here that we've been trying to sell in our company. This is the cost, but this could be the worth. Like let's take a book, and you're a reader. So when you buy a book and you buy it for $30 and you get one idea that helps you make $1 million more, was the book worth $30 or was it worth $1 million? See what I'm saying? It cost you 30, you made $1 million. So that's the problem with so many Americans. I mean, JD, it drives me crazy. I'm talking to people on the phone and I'm like, oh my gosh, man, you won't invest $300 in yourself a month to learn how to make $1 million more? And they're like, oh no, coach, it's just expensive. And I'm like, that's not expensive, man. The way you look at the problem is the problem.
Well, and here's the thing too. I mean, when you have an opportunity to invest in your business and you've got an opportunity to take a chance, I mean, that's one thing we've been talking a lot about in our business is desire, courage, and compliance. Desire, courage, and compliance. And one thing we realized, Coach, is that there is only a certain amount of people that really are going to have all three. And they've got to have all three in order to apply the different strategies that we have to offer and that are really going to fit within our organization and fit within the systems that we have built. So as long as they have those three, then they are there. But the thing that most people cannot get, and this is what we talked about even with GC, was the courage piece, is that courage to make the investment in their business. And I challenge you, if you're listening and you're thinking about making one of those decisions, you have got to make the decision and accept whatever the consequence might be, but at least take some type of action. And in my opinion, you should be betting on your business every time. If you're not betting on your business and investing in it every single day, then you don't really believe in what you're doing. And you're most likely not very happy with what you're doing. So, listening to this, I'm with you. It gets very frustrating when you present an idea, you present all the evidence, and this is something that the business owner really needs, and then they say, well, I just don't think that I can make that investment. I mean, what do? Put them back into the selling system? I mean, you just say, hey, keep going, or what?
Well, here's an interesting thing. I picked up the phone and called a gentleman the other day that I knew. He knew me. He followed my coaching career. He was a real estate professional. I saw that he was number 4 in the company, and he had a good month, maybe $1 million to $1.5 million. That's what he sold. Okay, now that's annualized out at 12 to 15 million, which is not in the grand scheme of things a lot in comparison to the people I coach. Okay, that are doing 160 transactions a year. They're doing $200 million to $500 million of real estate. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so I called him thinking, this is going to be easy, man. I'm going to call this guy. He's number 4. I'm sure he wants to be number 1. I mean, we're going to pick up a coaching client. So I called, I built connection, I built rapport. I said, have you ever considered, let me coach you? And he said, why would I do that, man? I'm doing good. I mean, I'm number 4. I'm like, well, do you want to be number 4 or do you want to be number 1? Well, I'm doing $1 million. I said, well, I'm coaching people doing $10 million. And if it was one excuse, it was 15 excuses. I've never heard as many excuses to get out of something in 10 minutes. It became comical to me.
If anything, you immediately figured out that's not somebody you want to work with, right?
I just said, man, maybe I was mistaken. I called you because I thought I could help you maybe produce at a higher frequency, maybe earn more income, but that's obviously not what you're interested in, and that's okay. Right. But my point is that thinking is prevalent in 9.9 out of 10 people in America. Is that why would I invest in myself? Why would I grow my skills? Why would I have a coach? Why would I have the courage to grow my business? Why would I take a risk? And now from 20 to 30 years old, that was me. I was a basketball coach. If Jonathan Frost came to me and said, man, you're a level 10 dude, you could be making $1 million a year, coach, I would probably, in pure stupidity, say, Jonathan, man, I'm making $45,000 a year. Like, why in the world?
I'm doing good.
I got a nice little 2-bedroom condo. I got a decent car. I got a job I love. I'm one of the best coaches in Tennessee. Like, why would I want to make $1 million? Like, it would even so I have been there. Okay. But I believe when we know better, we do better. Maya Angelou said that. Yeah. And what was once considered a luxury, Garrett Gunderson said this, what was once considered a luxury is now considered a necessity.
Yeah. Well, and you've got to have that desire to be getting better on a consistent basis. I mean, that's who you want to work with, right? Like they've got to believe the same things you believe. And we talked about the explanation of services as well, the US, you're able to identify that so quickly. And I think that, what I've learned the most from you is the selling system that you talked about. And I want to make sure that we cover that, exactly what that is. And I have my own little version of it, that I kind of took from you. But the idea of constantly prospecting, the idea of constantly having these people, that you are contacting in the larger part of the funnel, right? And then they're showing interest. They're going into the farm club. then you're sending them a proposal, and then you're either closing them or not. I think that it's so important to have that system established in your business so that you can identify these people immediately. If they say, you know what, I don't believe in self-development, I don't believe in professional development, I'm good, I want to be in 4th place, you know immediately, okay, cool, go onto the mailing list and see if you might be interested in a retreat one day, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But tell us a little bit more like, how could somebody develop their own selling system right now?
They first have to understand that the purpose of the business is to create a customer. And there's a confusion in a lot of people, meaning confusion is randomness in motion. They do a lot of things that has absolutely nothing to do with producing revenue. The highest value of your time is to produce new revenue for the company. Okay. Now, and so what I figured out, because I was a basketball coach, we played games of probability. Everything's a game of probability, right? Like if we do this, and this, we increase the probability of winning. We don't do this, and this, we decrease the probability of winning. Well, when I started my business about year 1 or year 2, I'm like, man, I need a system. Like I'm random and sporadic in my actions. And some days we get customers and some days we don't. And some days we prospect and some days we don't. We don't have clarity. Yep. So I developed what's called the legacy selling system, which has served me incredibly well. I got a new book out on called Legacy Selling. I think it's free at my site. You go to my website right now, I think you pay the shipping, but we give you the book.
What's that website, Coach?
CoachBurt.com.
Okay.
Just go to CoachBurt.com, click on the shop. A lot of my great books are free. You just pay for the shipping. So we're moving a lot of those books. But the legacy selling system says this: there is a high value of your time and there's a low value of your time. The highest value of your time is the generation of new customers. Then it becomes, how do we generate new customers? So then we start getting into demographics, hit list. Every day we're calling on new money. New money represents people we can help with our services. We're initiating, we're disarming, we're locating a problem, we're offering a solution. Then the people that are interested that haven't bought move to our farm club. Those are people we're going 7 touches to try to follow up with, to try to bring them to a buying decision. Then we have new customers that we want to onboard correctly, get up and going, move them to net promoters. Then we have what's called our top 25 advocates, which are big advocates that fight for us in the market, right? Our feeder systems, our strategic partners, the people that send us new business. Then we have showcase events where we're planning events to pull people into. Like this is a showcase event. This is part of the selling system.
Doing this right here.
Yes, this is called a showcase.
That's one thing that I have tried to encourage, and I probably haven't done a good enough job in my own content, but this time where so many people are willing, like yourself, Tim Grover, I'm sure Brad Lee, there's so many people that are willing to get on a podcast or get on a webinar. Like if you've ever thought about getting a webinar or podcast together, right now is the time. I mean, Joe Rogan, what's his name? He just signed a deal for $100 million for his podcast. I mean, if you've ever thought about putting one together, this is the time to do it, because there's so many people that are willing to get on for free. Because it's a part of, they know, like Coach Burt, you know that this is a part of your system. This is a part of your, what did you call it? Chop wood, carry water? Like that's a part of it, right?
Yeah, this is a showcase. Yeah. This allows me, like I'm looking at the participants, number one, who are just on here. And a lot of these folks, some of them I do know. Chris Gooden, he's in Monster Producer. Michael Cudbreth, he did Monster Publishing. But a lot of these people are new people to me that I don't know, which means you allow me to be on here allows me to showcase my thought processes, my philosophy, my selling system, what I can do for people, how I can help them make more money, why they may want me to be their coach. There may be some person on here who goes, I didn't know Coach Burt, but I watched him and I liked him. I want him to be my coach. Or what is this all about? Or they call you. So my point is, this is called the showcase, and it's actually my #1 strategy for acquiring new customers. So if I called you and said, JD, we're up and running, I'm coming to Chattanooga, let's get a bunch of people in a room. All I need is 45 minutes, big guy. I'll bring the value, you bring the people. That's part of the selling system. Because we signed up customers from NugaCon.
Right.
We signed up people from NugaCon. That's a showcase event. So I got a hit list every day. I got a farm club every day. I got a top 25 every day. I got new customers I'm enrolling every day. I've got my showcase events I'm planning. Then when you start layering on database, right? Social media,
email blasts,
email blast, climbers, connectors, aspirational contacts. When you start layering all these things on, the next thing you have is this machine that is just working every single day. Now, if you want to multiply that machine, you take that machine, and let's take the company in London. If he gave me his sales team, imagine if we had 150 salespeople working that system every day, and they got hit list and a farm club and a top 25, and then we got social media, database, climber. What happens is you drastically increase the probability of making a sale.
That's what, so right now in our business, Coach, we've got a sales team, and we just broke up into separate, like 4 different sales teams. And my team that I'm leading, I'm teaching them the legacy selling system. I'm teaching them this because I've been doing this for the last year and a half. And I can tell you, if you're watching and listening, this works. Like I typically have anywhere from 80 to 90 prospects every single day that we have the opportunity to move either from hit list to farm club or farm club to proposals delivered. I've got about $230,000, $240,000 of business that's in proposals delivered, and we will move that to either open closed or open lost. And so when we are using that system, there is always some activity to do. So as you are growing your business, the nice thing about what I love about it, and I'm a systems guy because I'm a CPA, right? Like I've got a certain plan that I like to follow, certain strategy. And so for a business owner, for an entrepreneur, using this system allows you to always know where to go next. You're always constantly trying to put more people into the hit list. And the way you're putting them in the hit list is by having showcase events, new emails, new email campaigns, new events to meet new people. And what I preach to my team all the time is getting information. You need somebody's name, you need the phone number, and you need their email. That's the very first part. And that information equals revenue. And the more of those that you get, the more revenue you will make. I mean, just look at Amazon. I've been talking about that a lot. Amazon started out just by collecting that information for people to buy used books. That's the way it started. And now look at where it is. And each one of us in our own business, if we are not focused on getting that information, we're missing out on opportunity. No matter what you're doing. I don't care if you're, I'm looking at Chris Gooden. I'll use as an example. Whatever Chris is doing right now, he needs to be getting focused on getting information first and foremost.
You could call people today. Like I've called people today. They've never asked for my name. They never asked for my phone number. They never asked for my email, right? They never, one of the reasons, to be honest with you, John, I give away the free books. I think you pay $9.99 for the shipping. What it does is it separates people. If you won't pay $9.99 to get the book, when I give you the book, we capture your name and email. And I will call you. Like if you buy a book, like I'll call you. I called a guy the other day and said, "Man, thank you for buying the books. Number one, I just signed all of them. They're on your way." People are kind of shocked that I would call them when they buy a $9.99 book, but I do. And I thank them. Well, and I say, "Man, I'd like to invite you to something. Come sit in on something and see if you like it."
And the fact that you had those showcase events give you something to talk about and gives your team something to talk about. I mean, that's what's everything that we are doing is a result of following you and following this legacy system right now in our business, because we always have something to point people to now. And what's happened, just for me to be able to speak personally about this, is recently, within I'd say the last 30 days, our whole marketing team and everything has kind of come together for us to realize that, look, these emails, this information, like now we have a certain way of dividing up the week and our email blasts and exactly what information and what days are we really bringing value to people that are really clicking on this stuff and interested, right? And starting to track that. And so this system allows us to be able to do that. And it started with that legacy selling system. So I think it's interesting. You brought up the point too, that people talk to you, but they don't even ask for your email or anything. I found myself contacting people on social media, and they'll say, "Hey, I love your stuff." I just ask them now. I just say, "Hey, what's your email address?" Right. Just ask them for that. Or if I answer a question, ask them for that email. Having some way to get them into that system in the very beginning is so critically important if you're wanting to grow your business significantly.
And you got to see every person that reaches out to you as a potential person for you. Like on Instagram, you know, when I spoke at 10X, I was just getting on Instagram. I didn't really even understand it. And I spoke at 10X, and the comical thing was my buddy said, well, you know, how many messages have you got? I'm like, what do you mean messages?
Like
and
DMs?
I handed him my phone, and he said, right here, he's like, you have 500 messages from people who want something from you. Like they're interested. I was like, what? Like I didn't even know how to do it.
Wow,
and
that's amazing, Coach.
Yeah, I didn't even know that I had 500 messages of people reaching out to me, direct messages. And now when a person reaches out to me on Instagram, I send them a video back, and I say, man, thank you. I don't care who it is, man. Thank you. What's the best number to reach you? I'd love to call you and talk to you at some point. And I've never had a person not give me their number.
Right.
They're like, here's my number. Call me. If they think I'll call them, they give me their number, and so I call them, and some of our biggest deals have started that way.
Right. And I think another thing that we've done here recently too that really worked towards this and helps with the visual, as you as a business owner listening, as a visual and being able to understand the value in that new contact is like, we just took our revenues from last year and just divided it by the number of contacts we had in our CRM system, and just came up with that number. So every single new email right now represents $720 to us. So like when you start to think about it that way, okay, I mean, I'm sitting here going, how many other emails can I get? Right? I mean, it's just that simple to be able to lay it out there that way. And you've got to have some type of CRM in order to be able to handle all this information, but it's all a part of that system. And I'll say too, I mean, if you have not read any of Coach Burt's books, what's that website again, Coach?
Coach Burt, COACHBURT.com.
CoachBurt.com. You need to read Swag, and you need to read Person of Interest.
Yep.
And $1 Million Follow-Up. Those are my favorite ones, Coach. That I've read I've been able to take ideas directly from those and turn them into cash. I mean, no doubt about it. And
they're very practical.
I love the practicality behind them. I love they are shorter, so it's like a lot easier to get through them. It makes you feel really accomplished. So if you're that kind of a reader, it's really good stuff.
Yep, good.
So, Coach, I really appreciate your time coming on here and being on the Daily Ledger podcast. I appreciate those that are watching. We kind of had this as a webinar as well. But does anybody have any questions directly for Coach? I would love to entertain any of those questions right now. And if, Coach, you had any other closing remarks or anything relative to the selling system, or what's the best way for people to reach out to you while they might be asking a question or two here?
Yeah, you can email me directly if you want to do a strategy session. I do strategy sessions with people where I just listen. And when I listen, I can give you, based on the number of people I've coached, I can give you immediate feedback on what I think you need to do, right? Where your missing structure is. I just did a call with the guy to Seattle, and I quickly identified that he's got all the core components of the system, but he's missing a person of interest strategy. So I said, what we're going to do next with you is develop your person of interest strategy, so you're going to become known. There's going to be 6 or 7 components. And over the next 6 months, I'm going to coach him through that, because a lot of you are really talented. You don't have a talent problem. You got a marketing problem. You got a person of interest strategy problem.
I love how you say that, because everybody has a story to tell, I believe. Everybody has a unique way of how they do what they do, and you're just not reaching enough people for that. And one problem that I had here recently that we're working out is actually knowing what we really provide. Like what value, what is our thing? What's our system? What is our products? Rather than being everything to everybody, like a lot of accountants, pretty general, and say, oh, we do all of these things. How do we narrow that down and then communicate that to the right audience? And I can appreciate what you're saying there from the marketing problem. Lots of business owners have person
of interest. I want to do a revised edition of that book because it's about 10 years old, but it's so valuable because you become a person of interest by creating, by circulating, by strategic partnerships, by visibility and optics, and people knowing that you're moving and shaking. I mean, we've gotten clients because they, they said, man, I see what you've done with X number of people. I see what you've done with Jonathan Frost. I see what you've done with this person. So they're watching you. They're giving me some of the credit, and I don't want to take any of the credit because that's you doing it. But they're like, hey, I saw what you did with so and so. I saw what you did with this person. I saw what you did with this person. I want that. I want to become a person of interest like that.
Right. And you've got to have and I'll go back to it. You got to have the courage to be willing to invest in this, invest in your business, invest the time that it takes to be a person of interest.
Yeah. I've never met a lazy person of interest.
Me either. That's right.
Brad Lee tried to tell me one day that he was lazy and he was a person of interest. And I said, man, I watch you on Instagram.
There ain't no, yeah.
Get up at 4:30. You go to work on Saturdays and Sundays. Man, don't even tell me that you're lazy. I ain't buying it, man. I've never met a lazy person of interest.
Right.
Never. Right. You got to work hard to be a person of interest in the world. You look at what Jordan did in that last dance, man. It didn't come easy. It came through sacrifice, and sacrifice is something we all have to give to get something. We got to give something up to get something. And some of you need to give bad attitudes up. Some of you need to give up laziness. Some of you need to give up something to get something else. We all do. That's part of the trade-off, right?
Yep.
If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. So I just want to encourage you people out there. If you've ever thought about having a good coach, don't see coaching as a weakness. See coaching as the best people in the world. Why would I be going to Robert Greene? Because he's the best guy in the world when it comes to the laws of human nature. What I deal with every day is human nature. I deal with people every day, and the better and more effective I can be with people during everything that's going on in their life, the more I'll prosper. That's why I would go to a guy like that to coach me.
I mean, if the super coach is going to get coached, you should get coached.
100%. And I'm telling you, with the coach, you will outperform the people who don't have a coach.
Yes.
It's just that simple, right? Like I don't know any other way to say it. Every study in the world shows that people who have a coach outperform those other people 3 to 4 times monetarily.
Right.
They earn 3 to 4 times the amount of money. So
right.
I really want to encourage you to give it a shot, and just give it a shot and just be open to it. Be open to anything, closed off to nothing.
I like it. Thanks, Coach. I really appreciate it. Go to CoachBurt.com to get one of those books. If anything, get off of here and go to CoachBurt.com and grab one of those books. And you will get into a system, and he is going to call you, and you need to respond to that because he will make you better in your business. Thank you so much, Coach. I appreciate you being on the podcast, and thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely, man. I enjoyed it. Have a great day.
All
Thanks,
right.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.